your daily coverage, for the last year has been really important to this 2025 football team. So, we'll start there. Again, this is a 2026 celebration of this class. All the hard work they put in to get here, all the hard work our staff put in to get them here, and just the first 7 a.m. call this morning, just the excitement out of our kids' voices. You're changing people's lives as coaches, with these scholarships and commitments and signing day, but just the excitement out of their voices, out there is just. That's what you do. And again, the relationships that we built, I talk about all the time, just the 4 program goals, is first one is relationships. And I think, our coaching staff that you're going to get a chance to come up here one by one is going to talk about just the relationships you build. And again, those relationships last forever, but they last through the next 5 years. And I think that's what continues to build our football team. And you build it with young guys and, just like the relationships we build in here. So I think that's, obviously that's critical. But, the relationship number one, get the kids come here to graduate. Our staff, myself, everybody in this building is obviously, grateful for everything that our guys do as far as academics. And again, our number 2 goal is to graduate. We want to graduate our players, and we still are firm believers that's why we're here. We're not just here to play football, although some people would think that's what it's all about. But when kids come on visits, it's about making sure we graduate. So relationships, graduating, and again, we want to win. And, I know this press conference is about the signing day, but we're playing the last game of the season to play the championship game. Again, that's why I came to Pitt. That's why we're here. That's what our kids want to hear. We want to play for championships. So, that's the third one. And then giving back, which, last week our guys, we're back, I should say last week, it was Monday. It seems like a week ago. Monday, our guys are at Children's Hospital, talking about all the turnovers we got, takeaways, and, LB Foster and all that was a great story and a great visit there. So those are 4 things that we continue to harp on. And with that, let's just talk a little bit about this class. Obviously, 21 signees in the class. Again, I'm going to start off with these, the 21 signees, and I'm going to kind of follow up with the thankful talk about who we're thankful for getting this done. We got a 66% hit ratio on our class. We brought in, I think, 31 visitors, and we hit 66%. That's got to be one of the highs in the country. We're not bringing in 50 to get, that's big time. And again, we've done that since we've been here. I think last year we hit at 61%, so we hit above where we were a year ago. Just, again, our quality time, and again, focusing on those 4 program goals and the people we have in the room. It's quality, it's not quantity. It's not bringing in 100 kids to get 21. That's a lot of wasted time. So we're bringing in the right guys that fit what we want to do. The last 3 signing classes, we've signed 21 kids in each one of the classes. I think prior to that it was 19. So, we're averaging, over 22 players each recruiting class. That tells you how important high school recruiting is. I've talked to some coaches that are signing 2 or 3 kids, whether it be FBS. That's not good. We want to still build our football team with high school football players. I want to make sure that's clear, and I couldn't be happier about the players and prospects we got in this class. But that's a lot. And again, when you look at just our roster currently right now, 75% of our roster, our 25 team, is from the high school ranks, okay, and 25% portal. So I think that's 3/4 of our football team is high school. And you look at the young guys we have on our team, the young standouts, whether it's Mason, Boosie, Trey Butkowski, Sean Lee. I'm probably missing somebody. That means there's too many freshmen to talk about. That's a good thing. And again, we want to continue. There's going to be some of those stars. Who are they going to be? I don't know. We'll see when we get here. But we're excited about that. Average class GPA, 3.25. And again, when you look at just the evaluation, how do we get these guys? How are we doing it? Unfortunately, only 4 of them came from camp. Okay, so we're not getting as many people camping anymore. They'll visit campus, but they're not actually going to camp. But we did get 4 from camp. We got 10 from live spring evaluations. We got 10 from visits to their high school games. So 10 games we got to on a Friday night or Thursday night, whatever it was, or Saturday morning game, whatever it may be. And then 7, that we got spring evaluations. So, all those things culminate into why I'm thankful. So when you talk about GPAs and you talk about high school recruiting, so first thing is we bring kids on campus. The city of Pittsburgh. I want to thank the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, the city puts on for our recruits. It's incredible. The food, the atmosphere, downtown. I mean, it's incredible. All of our player hosts do an incredible job. Again, couldn't do it without these guys. Our players will, grab a night or 2 nights, actually, 2 nights, 48 hours on campus and spend it with our guys. Our coaching staff and family, the time they spend. Our wives come on recruiting weekends. They have dinner with the parents so they get to know who our wives are. Our coaches put countless hours on the phone. I mean, and you can imagine all the wasted phone calls. Think about all the important phone calls. So it goes both ways. It's not just talking to our, guys that we landed. It's those other 20 kids that we didn't land, maybe that visited during the year. I want to thank our entire support staff. I mean, again, everybody in this building. It doesn't happen without them. And Graham Wilbert, Adam Caltori, and again, all the GAs. I mean, it takes an army to get this thing done. Academics. I mean, they're going through transcripts, evaluating transcripts, making sure that they're good enough to get in here and they can make it when they get to Pitt. I think that's critical. I want to thank all the high schools out there that we've trudged through their main office, given our IDs at the front desk, which we didn't have to do back in the old days. So it's great they got security there. But thank all those high school coaches that put time aside for us when we walk in that school. And then all of our faculty, the porch on Saturday morning, they close the porch down Saturday morning. We have all our academic people from campus come to breakfast there. Unbelievable, breakfast. If you guys never had breakfast there, the sausage biscuits is like, wow. A piece of sausage are about that big. If you haven't had that, you got to get there. Going back to that 21 guys in the class, 11 of them are on offense. We got 3 offensive linemen. We've got 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 2 quarterbacks. So good spread there. It starts up front. The 10 signees on defense, we got 3 D linemen, 3 linebackers, 3 safeties, and 1 cornerback. And again, a couple of those safeties we think can do a little bit of both there. 16 guys are mid-year, okay? That is by far the highest number we've had. I want to say last year was 9 or 10. I mean, 16 of them, okay? And 10 of those are all of our 10 defensive signees. So every one of our defensive signees will be here at mid-year. And then there'll be 6 offensive guys at mid-year as well. So I'll start off, D lineman Lincoln Hoke, Reston Lehman, Josh Pittman, Marcus Jennings, Desmond Johnson, Isaiah Simmons, safety Isaiah Patterson, Deron Barksdale, Tony Forney, and Kentrell McCray. Those are, some of the mid-year guys on defense, all of them, I guess. And then you talk about the offensive mid-year guys. John Kern will be here right up the street. Dylan Wester, Demetrius McCray, Wyatt Villaria, quarterback Angelo Renda, and quarterback Corey Daly. So those are the guys that are coming mid-year. Got 5 more coming in the summer. Damon Ferguson Jr., running back, wide receiver Rodney Dunbar Jr., wide receiver Brian Hamilton, offensive lineman Michael Vander Ord, and offensive lineman Nick Howard. So we're excited about those guys coming in. Just to give you a state-by-state breakdown. Again, we got 4 of our signees are from the state of Pennsylvania. Obviously Reston Lincoln, Deron, and John Kern from this area. And I don't think anybody takes more players and develops more players from the WPIAL and from Pennsylvania than the University of Pittsburgh. And when I say I don't think, I know. There's nobody that takes more than Pittsburgh, and there's nobody that develops them more than Pittsburgh, and there's nobody that has developed more NFL guys from the WPIAL and from the state of Pennsylvania than Pittsburgh. So we've taken more local kids than anybody since I've been here, and I think that's important. I mean, you think about DeMar Hamlin, Jordan Whitehead, Dane Jackson, Cruz Brookins, Braylon Lovelace, Sean Fitzsimmons, Paris Ford, a great one. So again, other guys that were from Pittsburgh that left, Donovan McMillan and MJ Devonshire. So I mean, the list goes on of those guys from this area that we got. Other states, Florida, we got 5 of them from there. We got 4 from Texas. Really those 3 areas really big for us. We got 2 from Ohio. We got 2 from Georgia, 2 from Virginia. We got 1 from the state of Michigan, great state of Michigan, and again, got 1 from the state of Maryland. So we're excited about that. Just other quick notes, and I'm going to turn it over to maybe give you a couple questions if Mike allows me to. But the first signing today, there's 2 of them. Okay, two first signees. The first one to get his paperwork in was Marcus Jennings from Michigan, so he wins that award. We'll give him something nice. But my first phone call, my first FaceTime was from Lincoln Hoke. So it's a combination. Marcus called me right as I was on with Lincoln. So those are the 2 guys that won it. And then Wyatt was a 9:05, got his stuff in. But the reason he had that is they're still practicing, getting ready for a state championship down there. If you haven't watched tape on him, he's a baller. Wyatt, they practiced early this morning, Texas. Matter of fact, he was in school at 5 a.m. this morning trying to get that done. So with that, I'll open it up, not like a normal Monday noon press conference, for just a couple questions so we can turn it over to our staff. Questions?
Pat, to your point about high school recruiting, obviously the transfer portal these days is really a focal point. Just why is it important to you and your program to robustly recruit from the high school ranks?
It's kind of like, for the most part, you want to develop your own people, right? I want to take these guys that come from high school. We want to take these guys that come from high school and develop them, build their habits, right? I think habits are built, and again, we're going to practice more, we're going to train more in the weight room, but just developing those young kids from high school to where we want to. Sometimes you take, and again, sometimes we do a much better job, I think, than anybody in the country of taking that 25% of transfers and hoping they don't have too bad, it's hard to, break people of the old habits they used to do, right? You see a guy on tape and you're going, he's got 2 years to go, he's got 1 year to go. Oh, I can fix that. Good luck to you. It's hard to fix that. So to be able to develop our young through the high school development, as opposed to grabbing a guy that's got a year or 2 and hoping that you're a good enough coach that you can change a guy in 6 months. That's hard to do.
Where you guys had an elite recruiting and Forney, just talk about that process with him, how you guys were able to get him here.
Yeah, I would say to start off, Coach Collins did a phenomenal job. So we started, well, not we, Coach Collins probably started back in about 8th grade, 5-6 years ago with Tony. They've had a great relationship for a long time. But I actually went out there and saw Tony during the spring and got to watch him practice. They do their practice in the mornings, do everything. I got a chance to watch him spend a morning with him, watch him in the weight room, talk a lot of ball and everything. Then we had him set up for an OV. Some things didn't work out. He ended up committing to Missouri. Then he ended up staying committed to Missouri all the way throughout. And a few days ago, Coach Collins comes into the office. He's working on something and talks about Tony. And, a pleasant surprise this morning, he's signing the NIL. So I can't say enough about what Coach Collins did just with that relationship and not letting go of that, even though he committed somewhere else, to just keep going through that and fighting and battling and keeping that relationship strong, and to get his commitment and to sign those papers this morning. So that relationship was a heck of a job, and to stay strong on that.
What do you like about him as a safety? What are some of the things that stood out to you on tape?
I think he's very versatile. Like when you see him, well, first things first, you see him on all special teams. You see Tony blocking punts. You see him on kickoff return. I think he had an 87-yard kickoff return, 85-yard kickoff return for touchdown. Then you see him on defense. You see him at the nickel position, so he's playing man-to-man coverage down there at nickel. Then you'll see him just with his range playing the middle of the field safety. So you just see him have range, cover the field, then just roll down in the box, sifting through some traffic, working off color, making plays, tracking guys. And making some solid hits in the box. So you just see that versatile, him doing everything. You see him from zone coverage to man coverage to his tackling to his open field tackling and playing on special teams. So, from that standpoint, you see a football player that can do a lot for us. So you can see him play field safety, boundary safety, then absolutely help us in special teams as well. Yeah, Isaac. We got to talk to Isaac. So Coach Manalac recruited Isaac. So Columbus, another Columbus kid. Coach Manalac's done a great job up there. We got some good success with those Columbus kids on defense right now. But he did play closer to the box, and he throws up that shark signal about 2 or 3 times this year. So got to talk to him to let him know he's playing safety and DB. But later in the season, during playoffs and everything, they did move him closer to the box, which was good to see for me because you see him do a lot of covering and everything. But now seeing him in the box, you see see him bite a little bit more, which that was one thing we talked to him about going into the season and everything. So now you get to see that, and he actually created some forced fumbles, some TFLs, and that. So I love the fact that they put him close there because I know he can cover. I know what he can do from that standpoint. I mean, he was a sub-11 kid from a track standpoint, very fast. That was one of the first things that popped out. Then from a movement standpoint, his movements are so efficient. There's no wasted movements when it comes to Isaac of transitioning and everything in space. So to see him close to the box, making some tackles and showing physicality was something that we were very happy with at the end of the season this year.
You obviously want to train your safeties to play both spots, but when you look at these three guys, do you see any of them fitting maybe a little bit better at one safety spot as opposed to the other?
Yeah, I think Isaac will start at field for sure. Actually, they'll probably both start. I think Tony might end up at the boundary, but there's no way to discredit him to say he can't play the field and just put him in a box. You know, at the end of the day, in the secondary, we don't want to put anybody in a box. We recruit DBs, and that's what Coach said from the start. I know we say 3 safeties, 1 corner, but at the end of the day, we recruited 4 defensive backs. And whatever we can do to get those guys on the field, that's what we're going to do. So I would say both of them will probably start at field safety. Then we'll see where we go from there. The best part is they're both early enrollees. So they're going to get a lot of strength training and a lot of practice this spring to see where we can place those guys.
Is Duran in that mix?
Yes, Coach. Yes. Duran's in there too. So Duran actually played a lot of corner this year. I mean, Duran did everything. Played a lot of running back. I think he had 400 rushing yards his last game of the year this year. So yeah, Duran's in that same category as well. I think Duran would probably be a good third down Delta nickel as well too. So, but yeah, all those guys are versatile. They're all smart kids too. That's the biggest thing. Like when you talk ball, and that's one of the prerequisites. Just as you go through it, like one of those things. Like obviously you get to know who the kids are, their character, who they are as people and everything. But then the next thing, like as you see our pillars of the program, like knowledge, like we got to make sure we get smart football players. That's going to be something we do. We put those guys on boards, on the board, talk ball, draw up their defense, and we're very strenuous on that. And all 3 of those guys to get to this point have to pass that test. So I'm very happy to know that those guys will be multiple because of their knowledge.
How much do you think it helps for these, the coach said all 10 defensive recruits are coming in early? How much do you think that helps them?
Yeah, it just gives you a leg up, right? I mean, when you look at the spring and those 15 practices that they do get, I mean, gosh, that's, I don't know, 500-600 reps, that guys that are still in high school that aren't getting. So they're getting those reps and they're already getting acclimated sooner with the playbooks and just the speed of the game. So now as they go to the summer and everything, when we're not around and those summer enrollees are getting there, they're just trying to get up to speed. So these guys are so far advanced past that or just have more reps and playing faster. So I think it does give them a leg up from that standpoint of just being able to get here earlier and just sit down one-on-one with us too as coaches. So in February we can really slow it down, really go through football 101 and really break that thing down and set a strong foundation for those players when they first get here in January.
Anything else?
How much do these incoming defensive backs have to live up to when you have to play you did from Sean Lee and Josh Garrier this year?
Sean Lee, gosh, he did a heck of a job. Sean, that interception touchdown against Stanford was pretty special. So we're very pleased with both those guys. But, expectations, like, what Sean Lee did and Josh did, what these next guys do, that, they burn their own path. You know what I mean? They're on their own journey. So what those guys did has no impact on what these guys do. We just got to move at their pace and move them along how they need to be moved along in understanding our defense and just getting them up to speed here. So, but we look forward and we're excited for all 4 of the defensive backs coming in and what they bring to the table and how they fit in what we do structurally defensively.
Good afternoon, guys. All right, we've got Contrell McCray. 6'2", 170-pound cornerback. He's a guy in which that, again, he's got a lot of good versatility. He's got really good ball skills. For his size, he has an incredible amount of twitch and have great change of direction. As you watch him throughout the season, he played with a lot of physicality. The more and more the season went on, I think that his mother kind of called me one day, said, "Coach, he got to make a lot more physical plays. Nothing's coming to him. They're not throwing to his side." And he had a good talk with him together, and then told him to get his butt to the ball. And as you watch his season progress, you were able to see that physicality that he brought to the table. So I credit his mother to that as well, because she's on him. She's a football mom, taking him around his whole entire life. Just making sure he stays involved. Staying around the right people, and becoming the person that he is. With that being said, that's who he is, and I think he had around 5 interceptions as well this year. 1 in each of the last 3 games. Which again, he gets better and better as time goes on, and those are some of the things in which that you know from him, and you like those characteristics that he shows.
What's the mentality you need from a corner, from a recruited corner to play here at Pitt?
Well, you got to have confidence, all right? That's the first and foremost. You're on an island. So with that being said, you got to be a person which that does not have a long-term mentality. You got to be able to drop things, go to the next play mentality. You got to be able to understand that you're going to be lining up with someone right across from you each and every play. He's not going to go anywhere, and you better not go anywhere. When things do happen, you want to be able to get back up and understand that you're going against that guy one more time. And, so you got to, without anything else, you got to have doggone confidence.
Is that one of the selling points for a corner in this defense? That you can almost say to guys like, look, this isn't for everybody?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because you got to be a dog, to be able to play on that island. And then, like I said, in Coach Narduzzi's system has, been proven a number of great corners on the outside, have come through this system. And one thing about it, the people at the next level understand it. They've been battle tested. There's nobody that's going to come out of these, out of these 4 walls in which that has not been battle tested, and they do know how to respond and with anything that usually happens with them. And it's a complex system within press quarters. They're able to respond very, very quickly to checks, within a second. So that's why they translate well at the next level as well.
Cory said you've been following Tony since he was really young. What stood out from him when he was 8th grader?
And he loves football, and he's a worker. Obviously when you watch him practice, I was came into his school over when he started off at Creekside, and just watching him out there practicing, I kept asking who that guy was. And then at that time, I think he was an 8th grader, if I'm not mistaken. With that being said, he loves the game of football. So those are things that stood out to me back when he was a youngin', and then he was able to get on over to Kell High School, and he's the same person. When you talk to those coaches there, they say the same exact thing that his coach prior to over at, Cedar Grove. I said Creekside, said Cedar Grove, in which, is the same attributes that they talked about him having, which is being a worker, a guy in which that puts his head down and just loves the game of football. He's always there early, stays later, and always working on his craft.
Stats in high school aren't always, they don't always translate. But when a guy has 5 interceptions, is that one that jumps out to you?
Well, it's just always amazing as you look at their high school film throughout time. Certain people have some sort of bad habits. Some people have what I call that it factor. And a lot of times when you see guys in which they go up and make plays, it translates over to college. It's always very remarkable when you have that it factor that you see it on the next level too. And some people can work and keep working, and then they'll develop more of those skills. But when you got that it factor and it shows up early in your life, sometimes even down to Little League, and it translates over to high school. And when that stuff happens over and over again, you really see it translate every single level that you go to.
Excited to talk about 3 linebackers, starting with Marcus Jennings from Cass Tech High School in Detroit, Michigan. Big shout out to Coach Collins. Did a great job securing the top talent in his home state, cultivated that relationship, and defended him all the way to the finish. So excited about Marcus. He comes from a great high school program, won a state championship last year, made it to the finals this year, so comes from a great program, knows how to win, comes from a great family. Dad brought him up here a year ago to the game, and seeing him on the field, you could see Marcus's long frame. You could look at his father, Milton, and say, Marcus is going to grow into a monster. And so love his dad, intense dude, awesome guy. Mom was able to come up for spring ball and see everything too, and spending time with her, seeing how passionate she was about her son. She's shown me videos of childhood, watching him play, grow up. She even had a door, the Ring camera on the doorbell, capturing him being dominant out in the front yard. So he's always been that guy. And So Marcus, for me, one of the things that always stands out is just a great attitude. I mean, he's always got a smile on his face, positive attitude. He's got a great energy about him, loves football, loves to compete, loves to win. And then just physically, he's got the long limbs. He's aggressive as hell. He moves well in coverage, dominates the perimeter blocking, tackles well in space. And this year did a great job blitzing off the edge and creating havoc in the backfield. And one of my favorite plays, I think it was their first playoff game, he picks off the very first pass of the game for a pick six, and so he's got that playmaking ability that we love, and so he's a hell of a football player. Excited about him. Think he fits very well into our star mold. Could potentially grow into a money. So that's Marcus. Next one, Desmond Johnson from Miami Northwestern, which is home of Pitt great Kalijah Cansey down there in Miami. Credit Coach Laster doing a great job finding Des down there, cultivating that relationship. Another great high school program. Won a state championship last year. They're still in the playoffs this year, doing well. Comes from a great family. Got to spend time with mom and dad. His dad worked hard on making sure he understood work ethic and earning what he wanted in life, and that's something you can see Des wears proudly, is how hard he works. When I flew down to see Des, just picked up my rental car and went to check out at the little booth there. The coach or the guy in the booth recognized my logo and said, "Are you here to see Des?" And it caught me off guard. I'm just checking out, getting my rental car, and I was like, "Yeah. How'd you know that?" And he ended up being the O-line coach at Miami Northwestern, doing a little side job. And he's like, he gives us fits every single day. He's tough as nails. And so I got a testimonial before leaving the airport on Des, which is awesome. But as you talk to other coaches in the area, you talk to the coaches on the staff and his teammates. Toughness is the word that comes to mind with Des. I mean, he is as tough as it gets. I even asked one of his fellow linebackers, "Hey, we put you in a phone booth. Who's coming out?" And he was embarrassed to admit it wasn't him. He knew Des was that guy. But he's a twitchy athlete, great nose for the football. He's always flying around. He's reckless with his body. You see him flying down on kickoff. I know Coach Bro's going to love that. But he punishes guys, and then he has fun doing it. And you see him celebrating. He's got that juice. But again, he's a hell of a football player. Excited to have him. I think he fits probably money first, but we'll cross-train him, probably some star. Maybe he could grow into a Mike. We'll see. And then the third linebacker, excited about Ike Simmons, from Maury High School down there in Virginia. Again, credit Coach Laster, finding him, cultivating that relationship, great area recruiter. But another great high school program. So 3 for 3 on great high school programs. They've won 2 championships already. They're in the mix for a third, so they're still playing in the playoffs. Great family, meeting mom and dad, military background, raised him with discipline. Great people. And so he comes from another great family. Got a chance to go down there and watch his team practice. Reminded me of the movie Miracle, watching, Herb Brooks line them up and just keep running them. And you can see why their program is so successful, because those guys train their tails off. And then watching Ike specifically, big muscle-bound young man, running with the skill athletes really stood out. So he's running with a bunch of, smaller, leaner guys and pushing those guys. It was impressive to see him running like that day. But Ike's he's a leader. He's smart. He has great work ethic, ultimate competitor type guy, and he has the confidence at that level to be vocal, which is different, I think, than a lot of guys. He believes in himself. He believes what he's doing enough to have the confidence to look his teammates in the eye and hold them accountable, which is huge. But he's aggressive, has good instincts, plays with a high motor, and again, another good football player. So I think he'll be a great leader in the middle, be a great Mike linebacker for us. We'll also, train him at money. So 3 guys, very excited about. Questions?
When you're talking with these commits, how often do they talk to you about what they see from the current linebackers here, obviously with the linebacker core, and how much does it just mean to have that as a selling point?
Yeah, it's a great question. All along the process, as we look at different guys, identifying guys for our fit, when we're able to sit down and watch film with them, that's a huge selling point. Look at our guys, run fast, hit hard, make plays in the backfield, defensive touchdowns. Our aggressive scheme is a huge selling point, and that's certainly something they need to have, right? You want a guy who wants to come in here and be aggressive, and you see guys light up when they see those plays and envision themselves making those plays in the future. So that's huge. And, our guys in the room, the linebacker room, do a great job of selling that as well, sharing their experience and what's asked of them. And so I think that's a huge thing.
What are the biggest advantages for those guys just to be able to come in January, mid-year, as early enrollees?
Coming in January is a huge advantage. Coach Bates is a big proponent of giving us time to teach in the mornings, and so we make the most all year round of teaching those guys fundamentals, football in general, situational football, scheme. And so by the time a young man starts fall camp, he's already had a winter install, a spring install, a beginning of summer install, 15 spring practices. I mean, the amount of knowledge they gain, just football, that's on top of strength and conditioning, nutrition, right? Knowing where everything is on campus and the relationships with everybody in the whole program. Just football is a huge growth potential. And then you can come into fall camp, running, ready to go.
I think I remember 3 years ago you being really excited about the class you were bringing in with Braylon and Rasheem and Jordan Bass. Hearing you now, I mean, you obviously have a lot of excitement about this. Not comparing them as players, but is your excitement about this group, is it on the level that it was 3 years ago for that group?
Absolutely. And we work hard, everybody in the building, recruiting staff, through, area recruiter, position coach, coordinator, head coach, to make sure we're getting the right guys for Pitt football. And so, like you say, when we find those guys that fit, it is exciting. And so you hear that in my voice. That's genuine. I'm excited to see what these guys do. And they come up to Pitt and fly around and make plays. It's going to be awesome.
Brian, do you find with this stability, especially on the defensive side, that when you walk into high school, like, guys know exactly what you're running. They know what to expect. They know what your guys are going to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge selling point. And obviously, Coach Narduzzi coming in here and providing the stability, and our defensive staff stability with Coach Bates is huge. Usually a big question from mom and dad, right? They want to know that, the plan for their son that's told to them as a junior in high school is going to last the 4 or 5 years of their journey. And so we're blessed to be able to provide that. And I do think that's a huge thing and a huge advantage. Because, again, going back to the first question, the dream you're selling, the ability for them to make plays in your scheme, we can show that that's happened here in the past, and it's going to continue, and it's not everywhere in the country. You look at the people, the landscape of college football is not the same everywhere, so we're very blessed in that.
You spoke about Coach Collins' relationship with Marcus, but what about your relationship with him and how that's grown over the last year or so?
Yeah, I have a great relationship with Marcus. Like I said, he has great personality. He's fun to talk to. He's always got something going on, always working, loves football. He could talk about his own football for days, going through his highlights and plays. So he's fun. Same with Dad, same with Mom, great people. And so excited to continue to build that, excited to get him here and coach him, because I think he's a young man that wants to be great, understands that, you can't do it alone. You need guys around you, and so he'll be open to great coaching, which is fun.
Talk about the relationships and like with families and stuff. How important is it that as we were talking about earlier, so many kids from high school, the roster is comprised of so many guys you guys recruited out of high school. At your position in particular, with linebacker, there hasn't been a whole lot of dipping into the transfer portal. Most of these guys are guys you recruited out of high school and have that relationship. How much does that help you to have, say, hey, we recruited these guys, they're here, they're playing, they're succeeding? Yeah,
it's huge. It's huge. I mean, like you said, my room, just talking about myself, when I can look in the room and I've recruited the whole room, that's powerful to me, important to me. And I think certainly the guys in the room, younger guys coming in can ask an older guy, hey, tell me about your path. And I think, adversity is going to happen in college football. So when a young guy can lean on an older guy for something he went through, a tough time, maybe it's an injury or setback, or maybe he's not a starter yet and wants to be, tell me about that journey. Guys can tell them how that's been handled in the past, what to expect, and it gets back to the consistency that we have within our program, which I think is a huge asset.
Great job, Coach Manalac and the rest of the staff. I can't reiterate enough what Coach started off with. This entire building, from the basement on up, I mean, this is a team effort in recruiting and like no other place I've ever been. I'm talking about the weight room. I'm talking about our dietitians, academics. I mean, this is people investing and asking, what can I do more to help us move this forward program? Big picture of this trio of young man, I let these guys know early on, all the way through signing day today. You're my parking lot guys. Like, I've identified them. This is what we want. Parking lot football players on the D-line at Pitt. Guys, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., we got a game and there's no media. There's no Twitter. You love football. Put your toes on the line and who's ready to run their face through somebody. And these 3 kids check those boxes. Not what does football bring to them. They love the game of football. And I think there's a difference. When you go to this level of football, you better love it. Like, love it every single day because this game can give and take. And these kids, they got it. Big picture boxes they check. Unbelievable homes. Like, not good homes, great parents, got the right fundamentals to be winners in life, okay? Second, I've heard it as a theme with my colleagues, great football programs. Okay, here and then we're talking the Whitfield, 2 of the best programs in the state of Pennsylvania. 2 of their best ones coming right here to Pitt. And then you go in the state of Virginia at Kings Fork with Pittman. They just lost to Ike last week, made a great run in the playoffs. I saw these guys practice. I've seen them play. These guys are ready to go. Specifically, Josh Pittman, okay, Coach JJ, getting a lot of love today, and you deserve it, man. Put him in front of me. Loved him. You went out and saw him. I was able to see him in the spring. Those live evaluations, any way you can get them. You don't buy a car, you don't test drive. But I was able to see Pitt lift. I was watching practice. I said, this is my kind of guy. It took him a little bit longer to get to the finish line. He made a little detour, but he got back home. I saw him about a month ago live, and bro, he runs down the field, puts his face through someone on a kickoff. I could have left then. This kid's a 6'2 and a half, 6'3", 230, flying down the football field, one of the best players on the field, and he's doing that for his team. You know, talk to him every single week, talk about his process as he gets ready for a game. I'm like, wow, he's giving me detailed scouting reports. I feel like I'm ready to go play with right next to him on Friday nights. This kid loves football. Absolutely loves football, made a great run, very versatile kid, almost an 80-inch wingspan. I see him doing a lot of things, you know, in Coach Bates' defense, on the ball, off the ball, flexibility, but a physical kid that loves football. Here locally, like I said, it's a great feeling when you set out recruiting here at the University of Pittsburgh to sell the D-line, and we get the 2 best D-linemen in the state of Pennsylvania, the best defensive end in Reston Lehman and the best defensive tackle in Lincoln Hoke. Turn on the film. Lincoln Hoke, watch him. He did it the right way, the old school way through camp. He was going to his junior year and came out to camp and just gave Darveau fits all day long at camp. And the more you're around Lincoln, you're like, hey, man, I want this kid in my life. Holy smokes, you watch him, a defensive tackle, just take over high school football games at defensive tackle. And everyone in the stadium knows he's the best player in the field, and nobody can stop him. I mean, just his dad, Chris, obviously the genes he comes from, but Chris and Jamie just did an unbelievable job with Lincoln raising this kid the right way, tough as nails. He's ready to come over here tomorrow and start lifting weights with Coach Stack downstairs. Love Lincoln over here at, and expect him right away. Reston, okay, long courtship with Reston. I mean, I don't know if there's a recruit I've recruited in my 25 years that I know better than Reston Lehman as he comes over here. Comes from, like I said, a great family, huge support system down there in Peters Township. Just had a phenomenal run under his leadership there on the defense. Also played tight end. He's also been the punter. He was right there with Lincoln at that camp 2 years ago. Then we saw him live. We try to, we do things the right way here. Real meaningful offers going in on this kid. And Reston checks a ton of boxes for us. You watch him play. The length, the energy. This kid just, he's dropping, makes some picks along the sideline. He's blitzing off the edge for Coach McMillan down there at Peters, doing a great job with his defense. As you know, that family's been very, very good to us, and expect Reston to be the next great addition from Peters. Questions?
I guess looking at Reston, you play a little bit of linebacker as well. Do you like that sort of hybrid, like edge rusher?
Well, as they go down there at Peters, you put your best players anywhere here as well in position to succeed. And they run an odd front, and he's on the edge, stand up outside linebacker. I see us get in the room and argue about who our best players are and getting them on the field in the right situation. So, I see him throw a shark up signal as well. I'm going to check Manalac's call log and see who he's calling and telling these kids. But no, Reston's certainly excited to come play on the edge.
Are you open to those kind of athletes? Like, do you find yourself watching almost as many stand-up edge rushers as you do guys with their hands in the
So as you watch a kid, if he's a big linebacker, I'm checking those kids out. Reston's going to be almost 6'4" when he gets here, between 225 and 230, with just a frame to grow. I think he played, 2 sports a season almost down there. He's always doing something. Going to be a great kid. Give me those big Mike linebackers to play in our athletic defense where those kids can be on the edge. And it's about frame and where you're going to be someday, and Reston is that kid.
How much of an asset was Dean's dad for him in his football development?
for his dad, for his me. I mean, I went in that home visit and was like, let's move things out of the way. Let's start drilling. The guy's unbelievable. You know, he played 11 years at a high level right next door. And just, hey, I would get notes Saturday morning from Chris Hoke, play by play. This is what Lincoln did last night. Sometimes with some video and some voiceover. I mean, this kid wakes up in the morning and here you go. This is what you did last night on Friday. They go in the backyard and work. And I think you know, he's going to be far ahead fundamentally. Just an unbelievable resource, as you would imagine.
Watching the film, it looks like Lincoln just has a really quick get off in there in the interior. What else just stands out about him?
When you watch that, if you don't have that here at Pitt, I got to go on to the next. I mean, and Lincoln gets off the football and plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And just watching him live, okay, his senior year, he doesn't stop. I mean, he's playing both sides of the football at a high level here in the Whitfield. It doesn't stop. Things are good, things are bad, and then boom, Lincoln's showing up, making a play at a critical time for his football team. You want to talk about a mature young man. I mean, balance on the field, off the field. I think he's going to make a smooth transition over here and be a leader in the defensive line room for years to come.
All right, guys, so, what I'll do is I'll start off first with our local legend here, John Curran. Obviously stands 6'3", 300 pounds, comes from highly successful Pine Richland here in town. During his time there, he was 2024 Whitfield champ, 2025 Whitfield runner-up, 22-4 in his career there as a starter, team captain, first team All-State, first team All-Conference, absolute mauler on the field. If pancakes were a tracked stat, like he would definitely be probably leading the nation in that. Also holds 9 powerlifting records, so really strong guy. I think he squats like 650, which is 2 of me, I guess. Top offensive lineman in the state of Pennsylvania, world-class powerlifter, like I said. Outside of football, he likes to fish and lift. Not at the same time, I presume. And then just as a note for Coach Daoust, he was not at the camp that Lincoln was at, or else it might have been a slightly different outcome. The next guy up, so Nick Howard, he's a massive, and I mean massive, talented tackle out of Houston, Texas, so credit to Coach Bates for that one. He stands, I think, right about 6'6", 320, and he grows like a weed. I mean, every time I come down there, he's an inch taller and 10 pounds heavier, so we really like his upside and his size there. Comes from a really successful high school, Pearland High School down in Texas, has had 4 playoff appearances down there, 3-time player of the week, 29 starts in his career. 2025 highest graded offensive lineman, first team all district. Also was a team captain, so you can tell that he's respected by his team. A 4-star tackle, top 33 tackle in the nation, and a top 55 player in Texas. So we're really excited about him. And outside of football, I think he wants to be a chef. So big shocker there for an offensive lineman. Last guy up, Mike Vanderoord, another large, talented tackle out of Cleveland, Ohio. So credit to Coach Collins. Stands 6'7", 280. So him and I are looking each other in the eye. Comes from St. Ignatius High School, a team that they play, I think, the hardest schedule in the entire state for the last 3 years. So he's been tested pretty much every year. He was a 3-year starter there. Only allowed 3 sacks in his time starting there, so he can pass protect. Tallied 60 pancakes in his career. So obviously a physical player, an all-district and all-state tackle, and a top tackle in the state of Ohio. Outside of football, he likes to golf. He's got a 25 handicap, so he should hopefully stick to football. That's our 3 guys. Any questions?
When you have offensive linemen at a prospect camp with no pads, none of that, like, what can you take from that, and how much of a factor is that, you're also looking at film and all those other things?
Yeah, I mean, you can see their demeanor. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is we want to start everything with, the right demeanor, right? How physical are you? How much do you want to finish blocks? How bad do you want to beat the guy on top of you? And you can see that with or without pads on, right? And then to play in this system, you've got to be athletic as well, right? This is going to be an NFL system. We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to do everything. So you got to be able to be athletic, and we can measure those things without pads on.
John's demeanor at the camp when you had him?
Physical. Without pads on, he still wanted to pancake everybody.
Coach Daoust talks about projecting where guys are going to be further down the line. How do you go about that process when you're recruiting high schoolers?
As it relates to these three guys right here, John will obviously be an inside guy. He's got that demeanor, the strength, the power, the leverage there to play inside. Those other two guys, Nick and Mike, they're going to be natural tackles. They're both long, athletic. They can play out there in the edge. They're great pass protectors. They're great run blockers. They can kind of do everything, so they're going to be more natural tackles for us.
Is it easy to tell, what those guys are going to look like by the time they're seniors? Or you have to keep that far out, as far as weight?
Yeah, you can usually get a good look at them, based off the size of their head and their hands and their shoulders and their frame, how much weight they can put on. So, you kind of know what in the next 4 or 5 years you're going to see and how big they're going to be.
What about these players makes them, I guess, just really, they fit really well in this offense, especially with the speed that Kade Bell wants to play with?
Yeah, that's kind of, you hit it right there with, at the end of the question, is the speed, right? Like we're not looking for the big 350-pound slow guy that kind of takes a while to run around, right? We're looking for a faster, more athletic player that can close the distance to blocks, that can get to the second level, that can get back in protection, protect our quarterback. So for us, these three guys carry not just athletic ability, but then there's, the John Curran effect too, right? The I'm going to finish you, the Mike Vandor, I'm going to get 60 pancakes, right? Like those are things that I think are hard to teach. We've got a 5-man sled out there that has a certain level of teaching for aggression, but some of it's built into who you are, and that's something that I try to hunt.
Appreciate that. Starting off, Wyatt Villarreal, tight end from Salina, Texas. Obviously from my home state, so it's one that, it was an exciting recruitment process with him. And the first thing about Wyatt when you look at him is he's a winner. They're going 29-game win streak right now. He's in the midst of another state championship run. So he's had a great program. Head coach Bill Elliott, there's a high school legend there, right there in the DFW area. He's got a great offensive coordinator there. His son played quarterback at North Carolina, Nate Elliott. So he's in a great system that does a lot of multiple things, uses Wyatt in a lot of different ways. Similar to our offense there. And then the second piece about Wyatt, he loves football. Like every time I talk to him, like Coach Daoust talked about, we're always having phone calls with these guys. He's talking nonstop about, like, he gets out of school, he's going to do something with his trainer. He's going to do physical therapy. He's going to do some recovery. Like, it's nonstop football. And down there in the morning, they practice at 6 a.m. He's up at the school at 5 a.m. every single day. He does stuff before practice, and then after practice, he's doing stuff, extra throwing with his quarterback, who's a really good player as well. So it's just, those are the type of guys you want. You want a winner, and you want guys that love football. And then from there, the big picture side of things, he comes from a great family. John, his dad's awesome. I've probably had more phone calls with him. I strive to love my kids as much as he loves Wyatt. And then his mom, Suzette, who's an incredible lady as well. So just great families. His sister works in ops at Georgia Southern. So football is in their DNA, obviously being from Texas. So can't wait to get him in the room. He's a great piece. All the tight ends have a great relationship with him already. He's already been talking to Mason a ton. He's a smart guy, obviously. Talk to the quarterback, you get more catches. So can't wait to get him here.
What kind of attributes attracted you to Wyatt when you look at what he can do in the pass game and also as a blocker?
Yeah, and on his recruitment, he was a guy that I saw as a sophomore, so I've kind of seen him grow up and develop and grow into his body. He has a massive head. He's grown into that in a lot of ways, so I'm excited about that. But he can do a lot of things in the pass game. He can stretch the field horizontally and vertically. He's got a big catch radius. Huge arms, big hands, so he can kind of be a safety net underneath. So excited about a lot of things that he can do for our offense.
You find one side of that, the blocking and the pass catching, route running, it's easier to teach, like you want to recruit guys who have one of those skills intrinsically versus bring them in and teach them.
Yeah, I think when it comes to tight ends, I think a lot of times as long as they're twitchy and they're explosive and they're willing to put their face in the fan, which that's always kind of the hard part to find out because so many of those guys are flexed out a ton. Coach Darveau always messes with me. I'm always recruiting wide receivers. But as long as they have that twitch and explosiveness and they're willing to do it, you can teach them the run game stuff. I think the pass game stuff's a little bit harder, to pick up on for guys, because if you're not a great athlete, I can't get you to run routes the way that we need you to do in our offense.
Anything else? Tony Forney, blocking kicks. Is that somebody that, does he jump out to you as well as like a special teams asset?
Absolutely. Going into it, when I do stuff like the hype video for a lot of our guys when they do their OVs, and I'm always excited when I see guys doing stuff on special teams because that stuff all correlates to the next level. And a lot of these guys, you see it this year. Not to talk about it, but there's a lot of guys that played a lot on special teams as young guys. So that's going to be stuff that correlates well for us.
any other guys in this class that you are hoping to get on your special teams unit?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them. Every single one of them. We played a lot of freshmen this year. We'll play a lot next year.
I was curious from the official visits, did you bring the big hat into the equation? I feel like I saw you wearing it.
Yeah, the big hat is in my office still. You know, there's a couple props in there, Darrell Revis jersey as well. So yeah, there's definitely some props, you know. So, but that's what makes it so fun. You know, you get to do a lot of fun things during OVs and just show who we are. You know, being authentic. Like I'm the same person every single day. So that's kind of what that's all about.
All right. So I had 2026 running back Damon Ferguson, junior. He's about 5'11", 200 pounds, you know, fast guy. The biggest thing about Damon, though, you know what I mean, I can bore you with all his stats and stuff that y'all can look up. But the biggest thing about him, you know, we've been recruiting Damon since he was a sophomore, you know, in high school. And, I mean, we recruited him when he had, you know, 2 offers. And we were one of the first to get on him, you know, and Coach watched his film, and he was like, this guy's going to be special by the time he's a senior. You know, and then he blew up and got a bunch of offers, and then Damon, you know, stayed with us. He stayed loyal, you know, and, you know, he kept recruiting him, kept talking to him, and he just, you know, kind of stayed with us. But the biggest thing about him, like Coach Bro said, you know, things that you don't know is that, like, he's a leader. You know, he's a leader, man. I tell one story, you know, with Damon. You know, I walked into the school, you know, to a school at Milford Mill in Baltimore. And, you know, he was in there with, you know, the principal. So they told me, like, hey, he's in the principal's office right now. And I'm like, you know, so I come around the corner, he's in the office, and I hear him, like, kind of going off. You know, and he's going off on one of his O-linemen. He has a freshman O-lineman that just got in trouble for slamming a kid through a table. Right, and Damon's like, man, what are you doing, man? Like, that's dumb. You know what I mean? You can't do that. You got to take that aggression out on the field. Like, you hurting the team. And I was just amazed to hear this young man in there talking to this big old 350-pound guy like this. And I was like, man, he's a Pitt guy. He's a Pitt guy, the kind of guy that we want. So, you know, and then from that moment on, man, everything about this kid, he's a ball of energy. You know, all the guys mess with him because he's always dancing, you know, TikToks, you know, just full of energy, full of life. And he just loves football, too, as well. You know what I mean? He plays football. He runs track. You know, does a good job in track, too, as well. Speed guy. Went 10.7 in the 100, 47 in the 400, and then 21.3 in the 200. So, and then he's versatile. He does special teams, returned a kick for a touchdown in his playoff game last week. And just can't say nothing but great things about the young man, and we're just excited to have him.
How did you see recruits react when you went out on the road and you could take film of what Dez did last year, the pass catching and all the different ways that he was used? Did you see guys' eyes light up, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, Dez did a great job for us, you know what I mean? And he was a great, you know, example of what you can do in this offense, you know what I mean? So when you go to these schools and you show all the stuff that he did, you know, it gets them excited. Like, man, I can see myself doing that. You know, and a guy like Damon, you know, he just, you know, can do it all as well. You know, he has great ball skills. You know, he can run, and then he's bigger. You know what I mean? He's a little bit bigger than Dez. So that's why he provides, you know, so much great things.
Loyalty has become extremely important in today's era of college athletics with the portal and everything going on. But Damon, you guys landed him. He still had a ton of other interests, but he was at just about every home game. I mean, just talk about that side of his character.
You know, honestly, he's different. You know, and that's why I like him a lot, because me personally, I built a great relationship with him. And I know him personally to where he's different than a lot of recruits this day and age. You know, honestly, he's not, you know, a huge guy that's worried about, you know, finances or worried about chasing these big logos, you know, any of those things. Like, he's all about, you know, loyalty. I mean, he would tell me, you know, schools would come in and offer him. Every time he would tell me, like, Coach, I ain't worried about them. You know, they weren't with me from day one. You know, they didn't see the interest in day one. So it's cool that they offering me, but Coach, I'm not worried about that. You know what I mean? I'm all about relationships, Coach. And he stuck to that. He stuck to that from the beginning to the end. He was all about relationships. And that's, again, what makes him kind of different this day and age.
We'll start off with one of the receivers, the first one, Rodney Dunbar, 6'5", 190 for Thomasville, Georgia, Thomas County High School. This kid is a dual sport athlete, plays basketball, also, you know, plays football. He got a high ceiling. I mean, with this kid being able to be around him, his movement skills, the way he moved at 6'5", he moved just as well as a 6'5'9" guy. This guy's a hard worker, blue collar mentality. Every time I call him and talk to him on the phone, he was always around his cousins or his dad helping out and everything like that. So this kid right here is going to be a tough kid. He's going to be special. Whenever I went to the school, I was able to see him and see him interact with those kids around him, being a leader, being able to talk to some of the running backs, being able to talk to some of the receivers in there, just being a guy that you want in your room. And that's what's so special about that kid there. You know, he won state in his sophomore year, and right now he's in the state playoffs right now and be able to win his senior year. He's got a great group of guys that he's with. To be able to go and try to fight and win the state championship, I'm excited to have him in my room, and the ceiling is high for that kid. The next one, Dylan Wester, 5'9", 165 from Palmetto, Florida, Booker High School. This kid is special as well. He is the cousin of LeJontay Wester, which is a rookie over there at Baltimore Ravens, a rookie receiver. This kid is very special. The way he get in and out of his routes, he can play inside, he can play outside. He's just a smart football player. Also, with this kid, you know, just being around him, watching him practice. They had him at quarterback at sometimes. Sometimes he play on defense. That's the thing I love about him, that, you know, it doesn't matter whatever it is, he's a team player. If they need him on offense, they need him on defense, he was able to contribute and help out for the team. And that's what type of players that you want in your program right there. Guys that's wanting to help out and do whatever they got to do to help your team be successful. Not only will he help out on offense, but he also will help out in the return game. He also is a returner, punt returner, kick returner. He's just a special kid. Just being around him, being around his family, very family-oriented. Just loved being around their family and talking and having those conversations with him. So I'm excited to have him in my room, and the future is bright for him. Also, the next one, Demetrius McCray, 6 foot, 185. From Clearmont, Florida, First Academy. This kid, knowing Demetrius, with his background, you know, he is the cousin of Boosie Turner. So he's from Leesburg, Florida, but he's moved down to Orlando, Florida, just for a better situation. Was there grinding every day. Whenever I came down to see him in Orlando, I got in about 9 o'clock. When I called him, he was outside training. And at that school there, they practice in the morning, every morning. So he was out at 9 o'clock in the 9 o'clock at night, practicing, knowing that he had practice in the morning. So that's what type of kid he is. He's a hard worker, a smooth route runner, a guy that a high point and attack the ball in the air, very explosive. He also played basketball as well. If you see some of the videos that he have on Twitter, this kid can jump out the gym. He also, over the summer, came here with his team and won the 7-on-7 passing camp that we had here at University of Pittsburgh. So we was able to see him, watch him compete at a high level, and like I said, I'm excited for him. It's a guy that's, you know, he's not selfish, he's selfless. Mid-year, he had to go play running back because their running back got hurt. So he was doing whatever he needed to do to help out the team. And those are the type of guys that you want in your room. You want guys that's, you know, it's not all about them, it's about the team and how it's going to help us be successful. So I'm proud, and I can't wait to have him in my room as well. Last but not least, Brian Hamilton, 5'11", 165, from Tampa, Florida, Gaither High School. This kid is one of those kids that's, you know, can take the top off. He also can play inside and outside. He's a 10-6, 100-meter sprinter. He also runs 22.6 in the 200. Over the Under Armour count back in the summer, he had the second fastest time out of the country. He ran a 4.40 at the Under Armour count. So with this kid, he's going to be very special as well. Play basketball, just love his pedigree. He have a high ceiling as well. Just the way he get in and out of his routes, the way he contest the ball, go up and high pointing. I'm excited for him. So with that being said, any questions?
I feel like at First Academy, you know, they had a thing where they were ineligible for the postseason and had players transfer and leave. What did it mean to you that Demetrius stayed with the team, didn't transfer? He could have gone to another school. He's a very talented player. Did that say something to you about loyalty, that he stuck with the high school and didn't leave?
Yes, with that kid there, all he wanted to do is play football. He loved football, and yes, he could have left and went other places, but he wanted to stay there because those guys was loyal to him. Those guys helped him when he was in a tough situation. So it shows right there that those are the type of guys that you want in your program. A guy that's loyal, a guy that's going to just stick it out through the good and the bad, and that's the type of kid he is.
Well, why not? Since you put so many positions that you guys have recruited this cycle, and you feel like you took a lot last year too. Could you just, what's kind of the philosophy behind taking so many guys in that one position and stacking?
Well, here at Pitt, we're big on high school guys. Like, we want to develop our guys. We want to get them in there as freshmen and get them to play and develop them at the level that we want them to be at. I'm not big on trying to get transfer guys and all this there because they're used to certain ways. And, here at Pitt, we want to push those guys and we want to hang our hat on developing guys. Like, if you want to get developed and you want to get pushed to make it to that next level, this is the place to be, because we just don't want to just chase stars or chase guys that's in the portal that's been at, all these other different places. We want to get guys that fit what we do, have that skill set, the guys that have that skill set to help us and take us to that next level.
The last two recruiting classes, all the receivers are 6 foot and under, and then you look at Rodney, who's about 6'5". I mean, why did you want to have him in this specific class?
Well, with him, see, like, I don't mind getting a big 6'4", 6'5" guy, but he got to have that skill set we're looking for. In this offense, we don't just run vertical routes and do deep ball and just 50-50 ball. Here, in this offense, it's an NFL-style offense, so you got to be able to run routes. You got to be able to run 15 to 18-yard digs. You got to be able to run the 15, 18-yard posts. You got to be able to stretch the field vertical. So we got to get guys that fit our system, guys that can run, guys can get in and out of their breaks, and guys that, can stretch the field. So those are the guys we're looking for. Now, if I can find a 6'2", 6'3" guy that has those traits, oh, yeah, I'm going to be all for him because that's going to help us be successful. So we're just looking for guys that's going to help us be successful.
All right, guys, so I got the quarterbacks. All right, first one I'll talk about is Corey Daly from Seguin High School outside of San Antonio. Place I've never heard of, before we started recruiting it. A kid that we just kind of found that, we're like, dang, where is that at, right? I'm talking to Coach Bronowski, who's a Texas guy, and he's like, somewhere near San Antonio. So, had to fly in and drive kind of out in the middle of nowhere to go see him. But, I think Corey, man, has a huge ceiling, man. You're talking about a kid who, he's been a 4-year starter. He has every single passing game record at the high school. Plays for his dad, so he's a coach's son who's one of the best offensive coaches in Texas. But what really makes Corey special is that he's a winner in everything he does. He was all-district MVP in football. He was all-district MVP in basketball, and he was all-district MVP in baseball. So that's one thing I love about Corey is that he's not just a football guy. He's got raw, natural talent that you can't teach. For such a big, long guy who's 6'6", he's got 11-inch hands. He's got great arm angles from baseball, but also he has great poise and playmaking ability for his size. You don't see many guys his size that can make the plays that he can make outside the pocket and extend plays. And I think that's from his basketball background, just being a shooting guard at 6'6". He's not a big post player playing in the paint. So I love that about him. And obviously, like I said, man, I just think he has a high ceiling. He loves football. Like I say, he's a coach's son, and he's a kid that, the ball was always in his hands in high school, right? Like, he's a kid that, his dad let him throw it, and if they didn't play really well on offense, they didn't have a chance to win the game. And so you want a kid like that that's not scared to be that type of guy, to be the leader, to face adversity, and that's what makes, Corey, I think, really special. Obviously, he's a kid that, like I said, wasn't very highly recruited, a late bloomer. Starting to grow into his body, and now he's the 13th ranked quarterback in the country, right? So, I think he's going to be a special player, and I can't wait to get him here for January, because I really believe the biggest development in quarterbacks are freshman to sophomore year, right? That's to me the biggest development, and the more reps they get, the better they're going to be. The second guy that we got, we got obviously 2 quarterbacks from the state of Texas. Is Angela Renda. Angelo was a guy that, we found, man, plays at a great school, South Lake Carroll, who's not just one of the best teams in Texas. They're one of the best teams in the country. Head coach there is Riley Dodge, who dad's a big-time Texas high school coach. He was a quarterback also. He's probably one of the best offensive coaches in high school in the country. And they've just done a great job there with their system. Angelo's a kid that, grew up in the same system from middle school to high school. And he's a kid that even when he was young, he was always one of the best players on his team. And he's another just a productive kid. You're talking about a kid that had, in the last 2 years had over 80-something touchdown passes, over 20-something rushing touchdowns. He's a dual threat playmaker. And, and the one thing I love about him is just how consistent he's been as a quarterback. You're talking about a kid who's only lost, one game as a starter. He's 28-1 as a starter. Lost in the state championship last year, and right now they're basically a game away from playing for another state championship. So, the one thing I love about Renda is that he's a winner, right? And obviously the completion percentage is huge for me. The last 2 years he's been over 70%. So he's a very efficient player, and he knows where to go with the ball. And you can just tell that he loves the game. He studies the game. All he does is watch and talk football. And those two are, to me, to play in this position at a high level at Power 4, you got to have guys that have been productive, that are used to having the ball in their hands, and guys that love the game. Because to be great, man, everybody's talented. You got to have guys that stay in here and work their butts off, that watch film, and that want to, be the best they can be. So I'm super excited about him too. Anybody got any questions?
Hey, just how do these two quarterbacks of yours compare and contrast in terms of their skill sets? And when you have one guy who's 6'6" and another that's 6 flat, just how does that maybe affect just what they can do just based on their frames?
Yeah, for me, man, I never want to recruit the same guys. I think if you say that, hey, you want your quarterback room to all look the same, I think you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. I want my guys to all be different, and I don't care, how tall they are, or if they are really tall like Cory, their skill set has to be what we're looking for, right? And obviously, Cory's a guy, like I said, who's super long, who's going to be a 230 to 240 pound kid. But he's not just a pocket player. You see a guy who can make people miss in the pocket, can extend plays outside the pocket. He has the ability to take over a game and do more than just throw it from the pocket. And then obviously, like I said, Arenda's a guy who he can do stuff in the quarterback run game. He's a track kid. He gets the ball out of his hands. He plays in rhythm. So for me, man, it's more of a skill set of, hey, are they accurate? Can they run the show? Right, like when the ball is put in their hands in game film, can they go win games? And then do they have that toughness, that grit of competing, right? And to me, I love that they're different because it's fun to have different guys in the room and play to their strengths and obviously develop their weaknesses.
I asked you a year ago, December 3rd, 2024. Would you have said you intended to take 2 quarterbacks in this class, or did that kind of develop once you found Cory?
If you want to be honest with you, man, I'm always trying to take as many quarterbacks as I can get. If you want to win a championship, at any level, man, quarterback is the livelihood of the team, man, of the program. You got to have a quarterback to win a championship. The players got to believe in the quarterback. The coaches got to believe in the quarterback. Everybody's got to believe in the quarterback. So, you don't want a roster where you got one quarterback and the 2 or 3 other 4 guys, they're not very good or they can't play. Why not have a room full of 3 or 4 quarterbacks that can all win you a championship, right? And you can't be scared to find guys. When it comes down to it, some kids don't want to be to have 2 quarterbacks in the class, right? I don't like those kids, being brutally honest with you. If you're a kid that is scared of competition, if you're scared to come to Pitt and compete, well then, hey, you're not going to make it here or in the NFL one day if you're scared of competition. And that's what was so exciting about both these kids is they didn't care how many quarterbacks we were taking at Pitt. They just wanted to come play in the system and come build what we're building here and compete. And when it comes down to it, we're going to play the best player here. We always have. And who gives the best chance to win.
You've talked in the past about you like to get the quarterbacks a lot of reps so you can see exactly what you have. Has it become any more challenging with having 2 freshman quarterbacks coming in at the same time?
Not really. I think spring ball, we've done a great job here of getting, our young guys developed in reps. You see that by, having multiple true freshmen on offense and defense and special teams playing this year. We find ways to get reps. I'm all about developing. Like I said, I really believe the biggest part of college football is for a quarterback is how fast can you develop from your freshman and sophomore year. And it's our job to get those guys to reps. It's our job to coach them and to be hard on them and to try to maximize their ability as fast as humanly possible, right? Because we need to know in a year, hey, is this guy going to be that guy, right? Is he going to be the guy who can run the show and be the face of a franchise, basically, right? And so that's a big part of it. And them coming in spring is huge. They're going to come in. In January they're going to start learning the system. They're going to go through spring ball and go through more 12 installs and come back in the summer and go through another 12 installs and then come in camp and go through them again. And that just puts you so much farther ahead coming in early in college, and that's a good thing for quarterbacks.
For the past couple of months, how have you maybe seen Angelo and Cory's relationship between themselves sort of develop, especially being Texas guys?
Yeah, I think, obviously 2 Texas guys. The good thing I love about both of them is that they're good kids, man. They've been raised the right way. They understand what it means to compete, and they both believe in themselves. You want guys that believe in their ability and believe that they're the best, and it's a healthy competition. I think that's what's great, and you want to have that. And the great thing of both of them is neither of them back down. They both feel like they're great players, and we believe they are. And the more great players we can have on the roster, the better everybody's going to get. They're going to make each other better, and I think that's the good thing here.
I guess with Angelo, maybe some programs might overlook him because of his height, but obviously he's a short quarterback yourself. What do you like just from his skill set outside of just being a runner and just being a part of a great team that it sounds like they're.
Yeah, I think obviously, like you said, winning, right? Efficiency. As a junior, he had 40-something touchdown passes, almost 12 rushing touchdowns. You're talking about a guy who's super efficient, who's played big in big games, playoff games. He carried them last year through the playoffs. You got to love that, man, because, there's going to be pressure at this level, and there's going to be a lot of people that rely on you to get the job done and to play on a great team, a team that has a lot of great players around him. He knows how to get guys the ball, and we're going to have great players here. And we need a guy that can be that point guard. That's who he is. He's that point guard. He's that leader. He's the guy that runs the show, and you want players like that.